welcome back to my channel for Flosstube number 47. Today is October 21st of 2024, and I'm so happy to be here with you. If you're new here, this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about my crafting life, mostly about cross stitch. Today, some cross stitch, a little bit of knitting for the fall, and maybe a book or two. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to check my notes at the end of this. But if any of those things interest you, I hope that you stick around, like, subscribe, check out my other videos. And yeah, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. I am so excited to talk to you today. It's been just a little over 3 weeks. I was supposed to film this weekend, but unfortunately I got sick over the weekend, and so I wasn't able to do that. But I am working from home and I'm filming on my lunch break, so I'm happy to be here chit-chatting with you, and I can't wait to talk to you about all of the crafts that I've gotten up to. Today is going to be an extremely cross-stitch packed episode. I normally show anywhere from 4 to 5 projects on any given Flosstube because that's generally how many projects I work on every 3 weeks, except this time around I have 8. So I have a lot of projects to share with a lot of good progress. It has been a particularly good stitching time for me because I've been pulling out all of my autumnal whips, which I love working on so much, and it's very clearly showing in the amount of stitching that I got done over the last few weeks. So I am so excited to chit chat with you about that. Before we get going, I do want to, I have a couple announcements about retreats. The last couple weeks I got and paid my StitchCon invoice, so I'll be going to StitchCon Weekend A in 2025, and I got my ticket for the Jingle Ball, so if you are going to the Jingle Ball or to StitchCon, definitely let me know. I'm very excited. It will be my 3rd StitchCon and my 2nd Jingle Ball. The Jingle Ball is a virtual retreat hosted by Lindy Stitches that happens in December. And it's very fun, it's very Christmassy. You can do it from the comfort of your own stitching chair. And I had a great time at it last year. I'm very excited for this year, particularly for Liz Mathews' Star Pillow Finishing class and the Blue Flowers like Winter Terrarium. I forgot what the name of the class is, but very excited. So if you've not heard of the Jingle Ball, definitely go check it out. I was hoping my Jingle Ball t-shirt would be here before I filmed today, but it has not arrived yet. That being said, I'm very excited. So those are some like upcoming stitching event plans. But other than that, we will hop right into the stitching of it all, and then we'll do a little bit of haul, and then I'll talk about knitting to close out today's video. Yeah, I hope that you like what we got going on today, and let's get into it. The first project that was up in this Flosstubes rotation is the 5th Day of Christmas by Hello from Liz Mathews. This is part of a big long stitch along that my friend Cam and I are doing, where we are stitching all of the days of Christmas by Liz, which are amazing. I'm doing them all of the samplers on one big piece. Cam is doing all of the trees on a bunch of different funky, fun colored fabrics. And we are trying to get done roughly half a Days of Christmas sampler every month, so that we will be done with the entire series by the end of next year. It is October of this year. This has been 10 months, actually almost a year of stitching, because we started in November of last year. And I fell a little bit behind. I'm still a little bit behind because the summer was not great for me stitching wise, and this is one of the projects that kind of fell behind. But I am working my way back up, and I'm happy to report that as of my last Flosstube, this is where it was at. And now I have finished the 5th Day of Christmas. This piece, oh, there's some lint on it and cat hair. There's lots of cat hair on this one. But anyway, I am very happy to report that the 5th Day of Christmas is now complete. I still have not finished the 4th day. That's where I've fallen behind. But I figured I'm gonna pick up and keep stitching, and hopefully in December, I'm more excited to stitch on Christmas pieces, and I'll want to pull this out to get the 4th day finished. But the 4th day is the heaviest stitching in the entire 12 sampler piece. So I knew I was gonna have some issues with it. So I did about 3,600 stitches on this piece since you last saw it, over about, I think, 6 sessions or so. But I started the 5th day in particular on September 26th, and I finished it on October 8th. So a little bit behind to get it done in October, but it's done. I'm stitching all of these on 46 count cream and sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim with the called for NPI Silks, which Liz Mathews is a color genius, and these are beautiful. Cam is using the DMC. I'm only using the NPI Silks because I bought the silks when I first kitted this piece up back in 2021. But I'll get you in closer on the 5th day there. The only changes that I made on this day of Christmas in particular is the word peace is called for in rice stitches, but because of the 46 count linen, I thought my smear crosses looked a lot neater. So I went ahead and did smear crosses, which are essentially big giant X's with a cross in the center. See if I can get the camera to focus on them. I find they look very neat and very clean. And I did not use metallic thread to do the embroidery hoops. I would have loved to, but I did not want to mess with metallic thread on 46 count. It's already so small that I just didn't want to mess with it. Oh, I did change the little deer. Those are called for in black thread, and I changed them to the same dark brown as the tree trunks, just because they're little brown deer. And yeah, you can't super see the white thread that's the snow. You can see it really well on Cam's because she stitched this one on a dark blue fabric from Fiber on a Whim, which is amazing. But you know, that is another day of Christmas down. I am going to be pulling this back out here in a couple days to start on the 6th day, which will go right here, which I need to be halfway done with by the end of October. I am on track for that. I just got distracted by all the other fun autumnal stitches that I'm going to show you in the rest of today's video. But that is the update on the 5th day of Christmas. This is so incredibly cool. And I did set up on my Notion page a tracker for this series so that it would auto total how many stitches I've done on the whole piece. And this, as it stands right now, has over 20,000 stitches of progress since November of last year, which is amazing. That is so much progress. I could have, with the amount of stitches in this, could have done At Home by Brenda Gervais all the way through. Wild. But it's going to look so amazing. A lot of people are stitching this without the individual borders. Liz has a border diagram for that on her website, but I love the texture that the borders provide, so I decided to make a little bit more work for myself and do it with all the borders. So we are on track. Hopefully by the end of this year, we will be halfway done with the 7th day of Christmas, I think is how that's going to work. And my goal is to go back and get halfway through the 4th day by the end of this year as well. We'll see. But that is the 5th day of Christmas by Hello from Liz Mathews. Next up is another project that as of my last floss tube, I was hoping to get done, and I did. So this is finish number 2 of this video. This is Olga by Plum Street Samplers. She is adorable. And the last time that we talked in Floss Tube 46, I had pulled this out as my lunch break stitch, which is something I'm trying out where I take a project to work with me. I work in a museum and I work on it on my lunch break. So it doesn't get a ton of progress, but it gets steady progress every day, or at least the 5 days of the work week where I'm in the office, aside from work from home days like today. It gets worked on, and it kind of is nice because I don't have to transport a project back and forth, and it breaks up the monotony of some of my larger goal stitches because I'm not only stitching on that. I have something to break up the day. And so I was working on Olga. This is what it looked like. As of the last time that you saw it, it was sitting at about 25% done, I think. Yeah, 807 stitches complete. And in the last couple weeks, I got this completely finished. I did about 2,400 stitches over the course of 7 days, and this is what it looks like. I am stitching this on 36 count Flannel Flower linen by Fox and Rabbit, which is one of my favorite linens ever. It's a beautiful cream color with this gray modeling. I have a fat half of it in my stash, and if I could like pick one neutral fabric to use for everything, I think it would be this. It's just kind of perfect. And I stitched it with the called for Classic Colorworks. I started this on December 30th of 2023 and I finished it, let's see, also on October 8th. That's right, I finished this and the 5th day of Christmas on the same day. It was a very heavy finishing day. Lots of serotonin was to be had. And I love it so much. The only changes that I made to the chart were to take the letters B and H and make them pink, or this gorgeous like corally orangey color. Those are my initials, and so that was my fun cheeky way of hiding my initials in the chart without having to restitch them. But I love this. One strand stitching on 36 count is probably my absolute favorite. I can zoom through it so quickly, especially with these like strips of fill-in. I was able to stitch those in hand, which made it go by very quickly. But I believe the last time you saw it, I finished the alphabet. So I just stitched the whole cat, all these stars, this flower, these pumpkins. It's a very adorable, fast finish that I cannot wait to hang up. It is perfect for this time of year. And I just love it so much. I have so many Plum Street samplers charts in my stash. Honestly, like this one right here behind me is a Plum Street autumnal piece. They just kill it with the autumn stitches. I know I just saw their new exclusive for the Colorado Rockies, or the Rockies Sampler Guild, I think. It's like this tomato house, and I need it on a spiritual level, even though it's an exclusive, and I'm probably gonna have to wait a couple years to get my hands on it. When it comes out, Cam and I already have a plan to stitch it. So I'm very excited to have this one done. And yeah, another one off the whip pile. So with that, I got to actually change out my lunch stitch for another chart that was at a similar point, about 2,700 stitches left. So I will show that one later in the video when I get there, but Olga is all done and I'm so happy about it. So after knocking out 2 projects that I had really wanted to get done, one of which was a pretty lengthy goal stitch for me, I wanted to work on something fun that I had no plans with. And so I pulled out, I love this chart so much. This is Jack's Bash, also by Plum Street Samplers. Like I said, I love Plum Street Samplers autumn stitches so much. This is a chart that I first saw Pumpkin Hollow quilt stitching, and I think Megan, the Seattle stitcher, and I started this together. I think this one is still in Megan's whip pile. I'm not sure. I know she was having some issues with her coverage because she was one strand stitching on 32 count. So don't quote me on if Megan's still working on it, but I think she is. And I love this chart so much. This is what it looked like the last time that you saw it, which was in Flosstube number 35. And I had done about 4,000 stitches on the chart, which is about 35% of the way done. So when I picked it up this time around, I didn't have any hard plans, but I knew I wanted to get it past the 50% mark because it deserves more progress and it's amazing. So this is what it looks like now. So this time around, I did about 2,128 stitches on it over 3 days. It now stands at 53% complete, which is great, and about 6,139 stitches done. I love it. I have about 5,300 stitches left. I'm stitching this on a 36 count Millstone linen by LFA Linens, which is gorgeous. Pulling this out reminds me I do need to get some more LFA linen in my stash. Carrie of Tiger Lily Designs introduced me to this introduced me to this dyer. They also dye yarn, and Sue is so sweet. I have some of her yarn on a pair of socks that I'm still working on that I love, and her linen is just amazing. So this is Millstone. I am stitching this with my own color conversion, which I'll show you just here in a second. But I started this on July 31st of 2023, so a little over a year ago, and I love it. So I got done the rest of this internal linked border. Did I totally stitch the pumpkin? I think I might have totally stitched the pumpkin and this vase down here and this little mound of grass, and I finished this straight line border all the way down here. And I did one more line of the alphabet and this little diagonal zigzag line as well. So let me get you in close so you can see that. The variegation on this border color, I'm not sure if it's coming through. Let's see if I can get it to focus. But this color variegates from a deep gray to a dark brown, and it is absolutely stunning. So let me show you my floss ring real quick. I am keeping this in a adorable project bag from Little Boat 88. And I kitted this chart up at my LNS, which is the Stitch Niche here in Arlington. And they did not have a lot of the call for flosses. I was hoping to start this that day because it was the last day of the month and I was hoping to get this started before I did like a no starts month last August. And so I made a color conversion with the staff there and I love it. I think it's beautiful. It's a lot deeper. The only one that I subbed after making my conversion was Saloon by Color and Cotton. This was a limited edition. You cannot get this anymore, but you can see the gray to brown variegation. It looks absolutely stunning. This floss ring is amazing. I really, every time I touch this project, I think I could be a monogamous stitcher. That's how much I love it. And looking at the original chart, you wouldn't think that. I should also say I did some work on this chart, kind of rearranging some things. So if you look at the original cover image, this internal border is a lot longer and it's oriented differently with the flowers on the outside because there is another strip, a piece of the design here that I trimmed out and shortened the whole piece. So it's like a tree and a couple people, and I wasn't a huge fan of that section as much as I loved like this border and these houses and this alphabet and the over one quote in the center down here. I loved all of that. So I just did some rearranging on the border, messed around with it for a couple of days, and I got this kind of condensed version of Jack's Bash that I love. And it's a lot less stitching, which is great for me because I have so much autumnal stitching to get through. So I love this so much. I am so happy I got to work on it. I wish I could have worked on it more, but I have so many pieces I need to get progress on because 2023 Brijin was not responsible with what she was starting, and 2024 Brijin is having to deal with the consequences. So that is Jack's Bash by Plum Street Samplers. I can't wait to have this done. Hopefully I can get it finished next year, but that's again another 5,300 stitches, which is a good chunk. So we'll see. I don't know that I'm going to get to pull this out again before the end of this year. So this might be it for this year, but it's a good chunk to get done. I think when I pull it out next, I'm going to try and finish the floral border on the other side so that I can get down to the grass. I know a lot of the pieces that I have left are fill-in in the grass at the bottom, which should theoretically go pretty quickly because it's one strand on 36. I can stitch that in hand, I think. And I'm not super worried about the variegation showing up pretty heavily, so I'm pretty excited, but I just love this chart. So thank you to Olivia Pumpkin Hollow Quilts for showing it. I'm obsessed. After working on Jack's Bash, I was in such an autumnal mood that I decided to pull out another autumnal stitch that was not a goal stitch. But this one I am blaming entirely on my friend Maddie, who is Kitty Stitch here on Flosstube. We started Pumpkin House together last year, along with Cam, I think started it as well. And it is an amazing chart. It's one of my favorites Liz has ever done, which I say about a lot of Liz charts, but it's true for all of them, okay? So Pumpkin House is beautiful. It is a two-toned piece, which means you stitch each section on a different fabric and then stitch them together at the end. Well, Maddie had pulled this chart out and she was finishing it up, and I was like, okay, seeing you working on it in our little group chat is making me want to pull it out. So I did, and I got a ton done. So let me show you what this looked like when you saw it last year. I was about a third of the way through the chart because I had finished the bottom chunk completely. I am stitching this one on a 36 count cream and sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim. I wanted to make sure that both the counts and the dyers were the same so that my piece had the best chance of being symmetrical when I seamed it together. So I got this done last year, which is a good chunk of the chart. And so this year my goal was to get a good chunk in on the top half of this piece. And I'm so excited with what I got done. I can't wait to show you. But before I do that, let me show you my flosses and my project bag for this one. I'm keeping this one in a mini project bag from Jasmine Custom Bags. This is one of my favorite bags I've ever gotten from her. I love her bags, number one. But now that I ditched my Q-snaps and I am a hoop stitcher primarily, these small versions are to die for. They have a pocket in the front, fabric on the back, a gorgeous interior, amazing zippers. I love them so much. And I have a hard time saying no to her small bags, especially when they have this gorgeous tooled leather. Fergus, can you not scratch, please? I'm trying to show the people the pumpkin house. So I'm stitching this with a Forbidden Fiber Co. floss conversion that my friend Carrie of Tiger Lily Designs put together last year. And I believe Cam is using the same conversion. Maddie, I think, used the Called For DMC. She's a big DMC stitcher. And this is amazing. It's beautiful. I love Leanne at Forbidden Fiber Co. I actually have some yarn from her on the way, from a new colorway that I'm very excited about. But that is what I'm stitching this with. And this is what Pumpkin House looks like now. I went ham on this. I did, let's see. So I started this piece on September 11th of last year. And I did about 1,700 stitches over 3 days on this to get everything but the house done on this piece, which I'm very excited about. In total, between the bottom half and this piece, this project is now sitting at 52.7% complete, which is pretty good. Again, that house is pretty full coverage. I'm so sorry if you hear cat toys in the background. Fergus has brought his mouse on a stick, and it has a bell on it, which is annoying, Fergus. So this piece, the house is pretty full coverage, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through this whole thing this time around, but I am pretty proud that I got as far as I did. This half is stitched on 36 count Topaz linen by Fiber on a Whim as well, which is an amazing deep blue. And this was really fun to work on. I could have worked on this for a bit longer again. I know I left kind of the last chunk of stitching to go, but it's not terrible progress. So I'm so sorry for this chaotic pumpkin house segment. Fergus woke up from his nap and it shows. So yeah, I got the border done. I got the crows, all the stars, these flowers on the side of the house, a little bit on the roof line actually, these spiders, and the first pumpkin done. So I'm very, very happy with this progress. It's, again, not a finish, but pretty solid for just a couple of days of working on this. And it was just good to get a start on the second half of this piece. I cannot wait to see it come together. Maddie, I don't know if she's filmed it yet, so this might be a spoiler, but Maddie did finish hers. And it looks amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I can't wait for her to actually fully finish her piece, so then I can get all of her tips and tricks when I get there, hopefully next year. We'll see. This is another one that I don't know is going to get pulled out again this year, but we'll see. I worked on Pumpkin House up until the full moon of this month, which was on the 17th or the 18th, one of those two, just here recently. And so when the full moon hits, I work on Sarah Moon 1791. I'm stitching this with a bunch of my friends as our full moon project. So every full moon we pull this out and work on it just for a little bit, and it's slow and steady progress. But I spent a lot of time last month in September working through changes on this piece that I wanted to implement, figuring out what colors I liked. This piece has a lot of colors in it, and some of them just weren't working for what I wanted this piece to look like. And so I did some maneuvering and bought some new flosses to come in. I didn't get a ton of progress on this one, but I did get a little bit. So I only did about 280 stitches, and this is what it looks like now. I'm stitching this on 40 count Dirt Track linen by Fox and Rabbit. And essentially I just did the new pink color that I'm using here, and I started the replacement of this motif, which I frogged last month. It was a very, very pale pink, and now it's more of a medium tone. I'm using HDF silks for this piece, and so I essentially went with the HDF silk for the called for DMC that was one shade darker than what I was using. So it's in the same color family. It just shows up a lot better on my fabric. So I'm very excited. This is the date of the finishing of the original piece that this reproduction was made from. And yeah, so not a ton of progress. Honestly, I probably should have gotten more, but I spent a little bit of the full moon doing some knitting, and that might have impacted the amount of progress that I got on this piece. Maybe, but it's okay. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you've seen Sarah Moon pop up quite a bit this year, so this should be no shocker. And I'm sure you'll see it again, maybe not in my next one. I don't know when the next November full moon is, but she'll get pulled out, and hopefully I can get that motif done and start in over here. My goal is to work the full width of the project before I start working down. So yeah, I'm very excited to have gotten a little bit done on this one. And certainly to not have to have thought more about it. I did all my thinking on this piece last month, and so I was able to just pick it up and stitch for a little bit. I promised you earlier in this video that I would show you my next lunch stitch, and I've been working on this one for a good bit, so it has seen some progress, but I decided to pull out All Are Equal in Death by Modern Folk Embroidery. This piece was pretty close to a finish for me already, so I figured it'd be a good candidate for this, and also I was hitting a pretty complicated point in this project. So you can see from the cover image, this is part of Modern Folk Embroidery's Dark Crosses series, and it is a monochromatic chart. But last year, when I was kitting this up, I saw, or Marjorie sent me this person's post about their color choices for this one, and I loved it so much, I decided to copy them. So this is Timber Sips on Instagram. They were doing a color conversion where they made all the different elements of this chart different colors. And so as of last year, this is what mine looked like. I had finished the words, the coffin, and the skeleton. I'm not stitching the outside lined border, so I just had the leaves left. And the leaves were the complicated part because they're being stitched in a variegated DMC. And so it's a very intentional placement kind of thing that was a little overwhelming to my very type A brain. So as much as I am loving how this is looking, it is also killing my soul a little bit. This is what it's looking like now. Oh, Fergus, would you like to say hi to the people? You say hi? Say hi. I'm up and I'm being a terror. Yeah? No, he's not about being held right now. So anyway, this is what All Are Equal in Depth is looking like right now. I am very close to a finish on this. It has just under 1,000 stitches left. I have done in total about 1,800 stitches on this over 6 days, and my progress is definitely slower than it was on Olga, but like I said, I'm being very intentional about how I'm stitching this piece to ensure that, let me make sure it focuses, the light colored stitching is toward the coffin and it gets deeper as it goes out. I know you can kind of barely see the skeleton. He shows up a lot more in person, I promise. But this is very cool. It's a very awesome effect, and I think it's going to be so worth it. As of this point, I only have, I think, 2 more branches on each side. So I've been working it back and forth to kind of ensure that I have a similar strand to use to get a similar variegation. We'll see if it ends up looking okay, but so far we're getting there. Again, my analytical it must match brain is struggling with this piece, but we're gonna make it through. And having the time on my lunch break where I'm sitting in silence at a table to get this done has been very helpful versus like just casual nighttime stitching in my recliner. It's been working out great. So I'm very happy that this will no longer be on my WIP list as of this week. I think I'm gonna be able to get it done by Friday. So that is the fingers crossed on this one, that the next time you see it, it will be a finish. And after that, I'm not quite sure what my next lunch stitch is going to be. Certainly something that is small and doesn't have a lot of colors. I'm thinking it might be Sally Spencer, my Sally Spencer sampler by Birds of a Feather, or perhaps something a little bit more seasonal. For November, we'll see. I'm not quite sure. It might be Away We Ride by Blackbird Designs. I haven't fully decided yet, but I like having something that has about 3,000 stitches left, puts it pretty close to a finish, and yeah, very happy to have this one almost off my whip pile. Oh, I didn't tell you, this is stitched on a 40 count Catacombs linen by BeStitchMe, which is this awesome blue and red and gray mottled fabric. I love it. I think this is $37.99. This is a random fancy floss from Stash. This is, I think, a color and cotton white. And then this is a variegated DMC. I think it's 92. I could be mistaken. I pulled the color label off of it so that I could cut it up to shreds for variegated strands. So yeah, this is a labor of love for sure, but it is looking somewhat like I thought it would, which is impressive. I didn't think that was going to happen. So that's All Are Equal in Death. Very excited to have this done. And yeah, the new lunch stitch for October. I only have 2 projects left, so if you stuck it through this long, I'm impressed. This is a lot longer than my cross stitch segment normally goes. But as much as I thought I was going to be able to skate through October as a no starts month, I unfortunately got, and I got because I am a member of my friend Liz of Hello from Liz Mathews Patreon. It's an amazing Patreon. You get a chart every month, and I love her to death. So I'm gonna support her no matter what. But the benefit of getting an amazing chart every month, and the last couple months have also been beautiful. The one from September is adorable, and it's a little too close to Pumpkin House for me to start it right now. But when I tell you that about 30 minutes after Cam and I were having a conversation, well, actually our group chat was having a conversation about whip count and some of us wanting to whip down and all of that, Liz drops this new Patreon chart. And when I tell you that I literally kitted it up within 12 hours of seeing the email come through, I could not physically control myself. It is too beautiful, and I had to start it. So this is Plaid Bird by Hello from Liz Mathews. This is a Patreon exclusive right now for the month of October. So if you sign up for her Patreon, you'll be able to get this chart until November 15th of 2024, I believe, when it resets and we get the November chart. I love it. I think it's amazing. You might be saying, Brijin, don't you already have a Hello from Liz Mathews chart with the big blue bird? Yes, I do. That's Secret Garden. It's a springtime stitch. This is fall colors. And I love the kind of southwestern texture of this piece. I had to kit it up immediately. So I did have a new start, and that one is this one, and I love it, and I regret nothing. So I started this on October 15th, and this is what it looks like. I'm stitching this on 40 count Ophelia linen by Color and Cotton, which is just a pull from Stash. And on 40 count, this piece is so small. It's so little and cute. And I got done this first vertical section with this like southwestern border. The colors in this piece are insanely beautiful. I'm so obsessed. So this is now sitting at about 18% complete, or 1,200 stitches done, which is what I got done over about 3 days of work. And I'm just obsessed with it. Let me show you the floss ring. I still have it pulled. I'm not sure if this is going to get some more work on it before the end of the year. It might not. This is the floss ring. Like, you cannot fault me for how much I love this. These oranges and blues. I'm a sucker for a blue, especially when she includes one of my favorites, which is 924, which is this like deep jewel tone blue. Gotta be one of my favorite DMCs of all time. It's beautiful. And then she combines it with all these beautiful oranges. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same DMC palette as last month's Patreon chart. So if you have all these DMCs, you can stitch both charts, which is amazing. So I might make a note of that to possibly use the same fabric for, is it Pumpkin Hill House? I keep wanting to call it Hill House, but that's not correct. That's a Netflix show. But anyway, this is a beautiful floss pack, and I again regret nothing. So started this, worked on it for a little bit, and it is now a whip. but it's so small. Like this is almost, I think it's like 2 stitches off of being the full height of the chart, and it's a square. So it's little, and that's how I justified it. So yeah, thank you to Liz Mathews for designing amazing charts, and it's amazing. And with that being said, I only worked on one more chart over the last couple of weeks, and this one was kind of an impulse, kind of a situational project to work on, I guess you could say. So like I said, wasn't feeling great this weekend, and we decided to have a movie day. And for the autumnal season, that did involve watching Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, which is a staple movie for this time of year. And we'd realized that someone hadn't seen it, and so they came over and we had like a movie day. Well, I figured if we're watching Practical Magic, I have to stitch on Practical Magic. So I pulled out Practical Magic by the Primitive Hair. I started this with my friend Megan at the Seattle Stitcher last year, and it's amazing. I love this chart. Megan actually gifted me this linen that I'm stitching it on. This is what it looked like last time you saw it. It was sitting at about 25%, I believe. I did decide I'm not stitching the bottom black border. I'm just kind of doing everything else. And I got quite a bit done on this, mostly because it's on 30 count linen, so it's very easy. This is what it looks like now. I am stitching this on the called for fabric, which is 30 count Old Salem. Thank you to Megan, who found it at her LNS and sent me a cut of it. And I'm stitching it with the called for flosses, which are mostly DMC and a couple Gentle Arts. And I have done, let me see, how much did I do? I did about 1,670 stitches on this over 2 days. It is now over the 50% mark, and it's got about 3,300 stitches left, which is exciting. So since you've seen this last, I came through and did the entire word practical, which this giant P has like almost 800 stitches on its own. I did these umbrellas and the start of their hands, and I did a little bit more work on this vine of roses, and it's just amazing. This chart's really beautiful, and I'm working it with 2 strands, which honestly, it's been a hot minute since I've done anything with 2-stranded stitching, and it was a little bit nice on this piece, I'm not gonna lie. I still don't love it, but I love the coverage of 30 count because it's that perfect in-between of 28 count, which feels like way too big, and 32 count, which feels a little tight for me now that I mostly just stitch with 1 strand. So I do love the coverage. I found it was very easy to work on, but it is like huge. Even though it's not that big of a chart because it's on that 30 count linen, which is just an adjustment for me, especially right after working on Plaid Bird. I mean, you can see the stitches are quite a bit different in size. And so going directly from working on this to working on this was a bit of a shock for my eyeballs. But I absolutely love this chart. I'm so looking forward. I think it's now at a point where next year it can be finished. So hopefully on next year's Practical Magic annual rewatch, this will get done. I do know that the majority of the stitching lies in finishing out the 2 girls here. But again, that's just like solid DMC 310 stitching in hand. So it should go pretty quickly. And then there's some margaritas here. I have to finish this vine going up, and probably what's going to take the longest is up here. There's a backstitch verse of Sandra Bullock's like last couple lines in the movie about like throwing the salt over your left shoulder, growing lavender by your garden gate, all those kinds of things. So I know that's going to take a hot minute, but as far as the actual full crosses in the piece, I am pretty close to, I'm halfway, so I'm very excited. Having the full words finished feels really, really good. And that is the last project that I worked on in the last couple of weeks. Over the course of the last Flosstube, I have done an insane amount of stitching. I actually have the total here on my Notion. It auto calculates it for me. So since my last Flosstube, in total, I've done 14,903 stitches, which is insane and amazing. And it means that October is off to a really good start for me, which is amazing because I was in such a stitching slump in the last couple bits, and it just feels really good to get a lot of steady progress. Now for the rest of the month, I only have a little bit left, and my plans are to pull out the goal stitches that I still need to do this month, which are my Vanity Sampler, my Song of the Nightingale, and the first half of the 6th Day of Christmas. And I think that's honestly going to keep me busy through the end of this month. However, if I do have some extra time, I know I will be pulling out Away We Ride by Blackbird Designs, which is very close to being 25% of the way done. So I'd like to get a solid chunk on that as well. And also my Dark Golden Delicious, which is under 10%. So that one definitely needs to be pulled out. But those are 2 fall stitches that I know I need to work on before the end of the year. I'm also looking at the projects that I haven't touched this year at all and trying to get that number down. So those haven't been touched yet, and it is in season for them. But they're not exclusively Halloween, so I'll still be working on them in November, especially considering we haven't even really gotten fall weather to like get in the fall mood yet here. I'm trying to force it by working on fall cross stitches, and it's kind of working, kind of not. We've had a couple cooler days here in Texas, but nothing too crazy. So that is it for my plans for the end of October and into November. I have 2 planned starts in November, but that should be it for the rest of the year, which is Emma Thatcher and Black Cherry Tart by Plum Street Samplers. And yeah, so that should be it for the rest of the year for me. We'll see. But that is it for cross stitch and cross stitch plans. I have a little bit of cross stitch haul if you're interested, and then we'll talk a little bit of knitting before I let you go today. I'm sorry this one is a long one, but I got my Color and Cotton Fabric of the Month and Thread of the Month, which this month I love this like lavender gray color, and then mulberry and Yale. A beautiful combination. Again, this is so delicious. I love it so much. And the fabric of the month this month is also pretty great. This is 40 count green tea. It's not pulling up super well on camera, but it is a very, very light gray washed green that is like a perfect neutral. I'm so obsessed with it. So that is green tea. And I'm actually, when I clean up from today's Flosstube, I'm going to be filming a quick little video about how I iron, fold, and store my cross stitch linens. So I will show you how I kind of process this into my stash, which is kind of fun. So be on the lookout for that video coming soon. I'll probably drop it in between some regular floss tubes. So I know I've had a couple comments about how I store my cross stitch linen, and I am working on it, so don't worry about that. And I think that's it for cross stitch. I got my sewing machine back, so I'm working on my project bag tutorial as well. So I'm hoping to have a lot of fun Flosstube extras for you guys for the rest of the year, and I am now working on that. So fingers crossed. I'm not gonna like overpromise anything, but I'm pretty excited. Definitely testing my limits as far as what I know how to film, because this is a very easy setup where I just sit in front of a camera and talk, and having to get multiple angles and figure all that out is definitely a little bit more challenging for me and my liberal arts non-technology self, but I'm getting there. So that is it for the cross stitch portion of today's video. If you leave me here, that's fine. Thank you for coming. But if you're interested in the other crafts that I get up to, I've got a little bit of knitting, and I can't wait to share that with you as well. So let's talk knitting haul first before I show you my big finish, because I finished my first ever knit sweater in the last couple weeks, and I'm so excited to show it to you. It's kind of like re-energized me for knitting a little bit, and I'm just so excited. But I do want to show you some yarn haul. My friend Megan, the Seattle Stitcher, who's a big knitter, sent me, she was doing a de-stash of some yarns in her stash, and she was getting rid of this colorway. So I asked her if she'd send it to me, and she did. So she sent me 4 balls of this, which is Malabrigo Rios in an unknown colorway, but I am very excited to have this in my stash. I weighed it out so I know roughly how much yardage I have, and my intention with this is to make a vest. I've never made a vest before. I only just made my first sweater, but since sleeves were kind of the hardest part of that sweater that I made, I am kind of excited to not have to do them, and I think I'm gonna have just about enough. This is a worsted weight, so if you have any worsted weight basic crew neck vest patterns that you want to share with me that are size inclusive, please share away. I'm kind of leaning towards a vest from, is it vest number 1 from My Favorite Things knitwear? I like that one, and that's called for in a worsted weight. I also really like the Tulsa tank from Creabia Knits, but we'll see. I don't know if I can do that with worsted weight yarn, but I am pretty tied to this colorway, and I'm very excited to knit this up. So thank you, Megan. I am very, very pumped for that. And now I can show you the main attraction, which is my finished sweater, my first ever sweater. I'm so excited about this. This is the Ranunculus by Midori Rose. This is a beautiful lace yoke top-down sweater that was so easy. I knit it with Knitting for Olive merino and mohair held together in this like dusty rose color. For more like color details, you can definitely check out my Ravelry, which I'll have linked down below. But I stitched this for my mom, which is why I'm not wearing it, but it is fully knit and blocked. I finished this just last week, and it is amazing. It is so soft. It blocked out great. Is it perfect? No, it's my first sweater. I did kind of go against the pattern for the sleeves to make them a lot longer and kind of add ribbing to the bottom. And I don't know what I'm doing with sleeve decreases, so they're definitely not perfect. And also the vacuum cleaner got a hold of my working yarn at some point, so there's a hole in the front, but I fixed it as best I could. There's a little bit of a gap in the underarm, but again, it was my first time picking up underarm stitches, and it was definitely difficult, but it is fully blocked and washed, and I just love it so much. It fits my mom perfectly. She's not taken any pictures in it yet, but I'll see if I can persuade her to give me some when she wears it for the first time. But this is knit with those 2 strands held together, which is roughly a DK weight. And then you knit it on US size 10 needles, which are huge. So it's a very lightweight fabric, which is perfect for Texas because it doesn't get super cold here. And so this is now a sweater that she can kind of wear probably starting next month and probably through the winter if she wears like a little shirt underneath it or something. But I didn't want the fabric to be too heavy because honestly, like a full worsted weight tight knit sweater, you're never gonna get to wear here. It's just not that cold. And unfortunately, if you put hours of work into a garment, you want it to be worn a lot. So she also really hates things up against her neck. So this has a really wide neck that sits on her shoulders. She loves it. And I'm pretty proud of myself for finally finishing this because I think I started it like 2 years ago. I know I was doing Flosstube when I started it. So if there's a video, I think I've got one of my quilts in the background and I'm wearing like a Hocus Pocus sweatshirt. But that is the Ranunculus long sleeve sweater by Midori Rose. It is my first ever knit sweater and I did it! If you're curious, actually, Elizabeth of Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch is stitching her Muppet sweater in the same fabric and needle size gauge. So like her fabric on that is the same as this one, which is exciting. I just love it. I'm so happy it's done. I actually tried it on and it doesn't fit me as well as it fits my mom, but I almost wore it in today's video, but I wanted her to be the one who gets the honor of wearing it for the first time. So that's that. And as far as knitting plans, now that I finished that, I am working on my socks. I am pretty close to being done with my second sock, and that will be another project ticked off the list. And I am kitting up a stripe pipe sweater with Liz and Cam and Marjorie and Liz Mathews. And we're all gonna be knitting that together. So I'm working on getting all my yarn in. Once it's all here, I will show you my color palette, but I'll give you a teaser of my mock-up of my sweater, which I'm really excited about. So we're all stripe piping together. So if you want to knit a stripe pipe sweater as well, feel free to join us. We don't have a hashtag together or anything, unless you'd want us to make one. We can certainly work on that. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking through the end of the year and what I'd like to get done because it's kind of crunch time for goal setting and all of those things. I definitely think there's a knit beanie that I'd like to cast on for my brother as a Christmas present. So hopefully gonna get that cast on pretty soon. I need to do a gauge swatch to make sure that the yarn I have in mind will work. But yeah, that I think is going to be it for me today. I did check my Goodreads account, and unfortunately I haven't finished any books since we chit-chatted last. My stitchy bug came back full force, but my reading bug kind of leveled back out again. I tried reading a couple books and they weren't hitting right, and I think it kind of re-slumped me a little bit. So hopefully next time we talk, I'll have a couple more book recommendations. I'm trying to find, I'm like in such a particular mood that nothing's really hitting right. And so I'm trying to diagnose that mood. And as soon as I do, I'll be back to it, zooming through. But for now, I've just been rewatching Madam Secretary, which is an amazing show. And it's just, that's what I'm stitching with right now. And it's perfect. So I think that is going to be officially it for me today. Thank you for listening to me ramble about my crafts. I always appreciate it. And if you made it to this point in today's video, go ahead and leave me, let's do any kind of leaf emoji you would like to. Because fall leaves are not here, but where I live, but they are in all the cross stitch projects I'm working on. And maybe we can channel them through the comment section of my YouTube video, like I so desperately wish. We'll see. But I am going to go film that little fabric stash tour video and get that together for you guys and get cleaned up from all of this and go finish my work day because I still have to do that. So I hope that you have an amazing stitchy couple weeks. Happy Halloween, and I will check in with you guys probably somewhere before Thanksgiving. I think that should be about 3 weeks, right? So happy beginning of November. I'm wishing you all cooler weather unless you're freezing your butt off, in which case you can take some of Texas's warmth if you would like it. But I will see you guys in a couple weeks with my next one. Happy stitching and happy fall, y'all.